They boarded the Liberty ship, trembling young German women with borrowed dresses and secret fears, promised to American men they had never met. Each clutched a photo. Each rehearsed a smile. The war had ended, but hunger and shame hadn't. When the ship reached New York, they braced for rough men and cold stares. But what waited on the dock wasn't hatred, it was music, flowers, and laughter. Some husbands were shy, others stunningly handsome. Yet behind every smile hid a past untold. That day, the journey of healing, love, and cultural collision truly began. The Liberty ship Helena May carved through gray Atlantic swells, its hull groaning with each rise and fall. Winter 1946 had teeth. Below deck, in a converted cargo hold lined with narrow bunks, 23 German women huddled in wool coats and second-hand shoes. Anna Bergman stood at the porthole, watching foam streak past. She was 24, thin as a rail, with blonde hair pinned carefully beneath a scarf her mother had embroidered before the bombings. In her hand, a creased photograph of a man named Jack Carter, square jaw, kind eyes, a soldier's uniform. His letter said he owned a farm in Kansas and needed a wife who understood hard work. She'd written back 3 times before agreeing to marry him. Beside her, Greta Hoffman laughed a rare sound on this vessel. Greta was shorter, rounder, with freckles and a disposition that refused to break. "Mine looks like a movie star," she said, waving her own photo. "Paul Richter, Minnesota. Says he raises dairy cows. Mine is older," Lottie Werner whispered from her bunk. She was 19, pale, with nervous hands. "But he sent money for my passage. That counts for something." Helene Kraft sat cross-legged on the floor, mending a stocking. She was 30, a widow already, angular and quiet. "Mine lost a leg at Normandy," she said without looking up. "Robert Hayes, Baltimore. He writes poetry." Marta Schultz, the eldest at 32, leaned against the bulkhead with arms folded. She'd been a schoolteacher before the city burned. "They want us because we're desperate," she said flatly. "Let's not pretend this is romance." Anna turned from the porthole. "Maybe. But desperation goes both ways." Outside, the wind howled. Inside, the women fell silent, each alone with her reasons. Anna's town, Freiburg, was rubble now. Her parents dead. Her brother lost at Stalingrad. The ration cards had lasted through autumn. But winter came with nothing. When the American Relief Office posted notices about the War Bride Correspondence Program, her aunt had pressed the paper into her hands. "You have no future here," her aunt had said. "Go. Live." So Anna had written to strangers. Jack Carter's reply had been simple, almost awkward. "I'm not good with words. But I'm honest. I'll treat you right. If you come, I'll do my best." It wasn't poetry, but it wasn't a lie either. Greta nudged her. "What if they don't like us? What if we don't like them?" Lottie countered. Helene tied off her thread. "Then we make do. We've survived worse." Marta snorted. "Speak for yourself." The ship lurched. Someone wretched in the corner. The smell of salt and diesel and unwashed bodies thickened. Anna closed her eyes and tried to imagine Kansas golden fields, open skies, silence that wasn't filled with sirens or screams. Days passed in fog and nausea. The women formed small alliances. Anna, Greta, Lottie, Helene, and Marta began sharing meals, trading English phrases from a battered primer, rehearsing how to greet their husbands. They practiced smiling. They practiced not flinching. One night, Greta asked, "Do you think they know about what happened to us? They know we're German." Anna said carefully, "That's enough, but not about." Lottie stopped, swallowing hard. Helene's voice was steady. "They don't need to know everything. Some doors we close." Marta stared at the ceiling. "They bombed us. We bombed them. Now we're supposed to sleep beside them." Anna pulled her coat tighter. "Maybe that's how it ends, not with treaties." With this, on the 8th morning, someone shouted from above. The women scrambled topside, clutching railings as icy spray hit their faces. Through the mist, a shape rose green. Massive, holding a torch. The Statue of Liberty. Anna's breath caught. She'd seen it in photographs, heard it described in propaganda as a symbol of false hope. But standing there, watching that silent figure emerge from the fog, she felt something crack inside her chest. "He's waiting," she whispered. Greta squeezed her hand. "They all are." The ship's horn blared. The deck erupted in nervous chatter, tears, prayers. Lodi vomited over the side. Helene straightened her coat with shaking fingers. Marta lit a cigarette and didn't speak. As the skyline of New York grew closer, Anna pressed Jack's photo to her heart. She didn't know if she loved him. She didn't know if she could. But she knew one thing. She had crossed an ocean to find out. The Helena May slowed, engines rumbling as tugboats guided it toward the pier. On the dock, figures moved, men in hats and coats, waiting. Somewhere down there, Jack Carter stood among them, holding a bouquet of winter flowers, hoping the woman in his photograph would recognize him. Anna whispered a prayer her mother used to say. Then she picked up her suitcase and followed the others toward the gangplank, toward America, toward a future that promised nothing but the chance to begin again. The gangplank trembled under Anna's feet. She clutched the rope railing, suitcase banging against her shin, and forced herself to look up. The pier stretched wide and chaotic customs officials shouting, porters hauling luggage, gulls screaming overhead. And men, dozens of men. She'd expected hard faces, rough hands, maybe suspicion or indifference. What she saw instead stopped her mid-step. They were young, clean-shaven, dressed in their Sunday best-pressed trousers, polished shoes, hats held nervously against their chests. One held a sign that said, "Welcome home." Another clutched a bouquet so large it hid half his face. Near the back, a small jazz band played something bright and swinging, ridiculously out of place in the cold morning air. They're smiling. Greta breathed beside her. Anna scanned the crowd, heart hammering. Which one was Jack? She pulled his photo from her coat pocket, comparing faces, searching for Anna Bergman. She turned. He stood 3 feet away, taller than she'd imagined, with brown hair swept back, and eyes the color of wet stone. The photograph hadn't lied. He was handsome in a quiet, serious way, but it hadn't captured the way he held himself, like he was bracing for rejection. "Yes," she managed. "Jack?" He nodded once, awkward. Then, slowly, he held out a small bunch of violets. "These were all they had?" "I'm sorry. They're not. They're perfect." She took them with trembling hands. Up close, she could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers twitched against his coat seam. He was afraid, too. Behind her, Greta squealed. Anna glanced back and saw a broad-shouldered man with red hair sweeping Greta into a hug that lifted her off the ground. Paul Richter, presumably. Greta's laugh rang out, genuine and startled. Lottie's husband was older 50, perhaps with kind wrinkles around his eyes and a shy smile. He offered his arm like a gentleman. Lottie hesitated, then took it. Helene descended last. Robert Hayes waited at the bottom, leaning on a cane, his right trouser leg pinned neatly at the knee. He was thin, with dark circles under his eyes. But when Helene reached him, he straightened and offered a single white rose. She took it without speaking, and something passed between them. A recognition, perhaps, of shared damage. Marta's husband was nowhere to be seen. She stood alone, scanning the crowd with mounting panic until a harried-looking man in a rumpled suit hurried over, apologizing for the train delay. She stared at him coldly, picked up her own suitcase, and walked past him toward the street. Anna turned back to Jack. "I didn't expect music." He smiled faintly. That was Charlie's idea. He married a French girl last month. Thought it'd be nice. A crowd had gathered beyond the customs barrier. Some faces were curious, others openly hostile. A woman spat on the ground as the German brides passed. An older man held a sign. "No Nazi wives." Jack saw Anna notice. His expression hardened. "Ignore them. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be." He picked up her suitcase before she could protest and guided her toward the customs line. The process was mechanical stamps, signatures, translations shouted over the din. Anna answered questions in halting English, showed her papers, accepted her entry card with numb fingers. When they emerged on the other side, the jazz band struck up again. A few of the waiting husbands cheered. Paul spun Greta in a clumsy dance step. Lotte's husband bought her hot chocolate from a street vendor. Even Helene allowed Robert to take her arm as they walked slowly toward a waiting taxi. Jack led Anna to an old Ford parked at the curb. He opened the passenger door, waited until she was seated, then closed it gently, and walked around to the driver's side. The engine coughed to life. "We'll catch the evening train to Kansas," he said, pulling into traffic. "There's a hotel near the station. Separate rooms," he added quickly. "I already paid." Anna looked at him. This stranger she'd married by proxy 3 weeks ago. "You didn't have to." "I know." He kept his eyes on the road. "But I wanted you to feel safe." The city blurred past buildings so tall they blocked the sky. Cars honking, people everywhere, moving fast and loud. It was nothing like Freiburg, nothing like anywhere she'd known. Jack cleared his throat. "I'm not. I don't expect anything. I mean, we're married. Legally." But he stopped, frustrated. "I'm no good at this. Neither am I." He glanced at her, surprised. Then, for the first time, he smiled, really smiled, and Anna saw something beneath the nervous soldier. A man who'd carried his own weight of war, his own reasons for reaching across an ocean. "We'll figure it out," he said. Anna looked down at the violets in her lap, their petals bruised but still blooming. Outside, the city roared. Behind them, a past she couldn't change. Ahead, a country that didn't quite want her. But beside her, this man with careful hands and quiet promises. "Yes," she said softly. "We will." The train left Penn Station at dusk, wheels clacking into a rhythm that matched Anna's heartbeat. Forward, forward, forward. No turning back. She pressed her forehead against the cold window and watched New York dissolve into industrial sprawl. Then darkness. Jack sat across from her in the cramped compartment, hat on his lap, trying not to stare. The silence between them felt heavier than the suitcase rattling on the overhead rack. Anna searched for words. "How long?" 2 days. "We changed trains in Chicago." She nodded. 2 days alone with a stranger she'd promised her life to. Jack pulled a paper bag from his coat. Sandwiches. The hotel packed them. They ate without talking, ham and cheese. Mustard too sharp, bread too soft. Everything in America seemed excessive after years of ration tickets and turnip soup. Anna forced herself to finish, not wanting to seem ungrateful. Through the walls, other compartments hummed with life. Somewhere, a baby cried. A man laughed. The train swayed, and Anna's stomach lurched not from motion but from the sheer weight of what she'd done. Left everything, everyone. For this. "Tell me about Kansas," she said, desperate to fill the quiet. Jack looked relieved to have a task. Flat. Real flat. The farm's about 200 acres. Wheat, mostly. Some corn. The house is small. 2 bedrooms. Needs work, but it's sturdy. "Do you have family there?" "My folks passed during the Depression. Got a sister in Topeka. She'll come around." "Come around." Anna understood. She folded her hands in her lap. "I'll work hard. I can cook, clean, mend." "Anna." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You don't have to sell yourself to me. We're already married." She met his eyes. "Then what do you want from me?" He sat back, considering. "Honesty. Company. Maybe. Someday. A family. But mostly, I just want someone who doesn't disappear when I wake up." The train rattled over a bridge. In the reflection, Anna saw her own ghost face floating beside his. "I'm here." "I know." His voice was soft. "That's enough for now." Across America, other brides rode other trains toward uncertain futures. Greta and Paul shared a sleeper car to Minnesota, laughing over her attempts at English. She taught him to say Guten Morgen, and he taught her the names of his cows, Bessie, Daisy, Molly. They arrived to a farmhouse full of cousins and casseroles, and Greta cried from relief. Lotte's husband, Thomas, drove her to a small town in Pennsylvania where he ran a hardware store. She sat rigid in the passenger seat, watching coal country roll past, wondering if silence was always this loud. At the house, he showed her to the spare room. "Take your time," he said. She didn't know if she was grateful or terrified. Helene and Robert took a bus to Baltimore, his cane tapping the aisle with each step. She helped him with his bag without asking. At his apartment, 4th floor, no elevator. He paused at the bottom of the stairs. "I can manage," he said stiffly. She picked up half his load anyway. By the time they reached the top, they were both laughing, breathless. Marta's husband Clarence drove her to a suburb of Philadelphia in angry silence. The car smelled like cigarettes and cheap cologne. "You'll meet the neighbors tomorrow," he said. "Smile. Be nice. Don't mention where you're from." She stared at him. "I'm German. Should I pretend I'm not? If you want them to accept you." Marta didn't answer. She was already planning her escape. On the train to Kansas, Anna woke in the middle of the night to find Jack's coat draped over her like a blanket. He sat by the window, staring out at nothing, shoulders tense. She watched him for a long moment, this man who'd given up his warmth so she wouldn't shiver. "Jack?" He turned, surprised. "Sorry, didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't." She sat up, pulling the coat tighter. "Can't sleep?" "Old habit. Keep watch." Anna understood. The war lived in them both, in different languages. She wanted to ask what he'd seen, where he'd been, if he'd killed anyone, if he'd been there when the bombs fell. But the questions felt too large for this small compartment. Instead, she said, "Thank you for the coat." He shrugged. "You looked cold." The train swayed. Outside, farmland stretched invisible under stars. Somewhere ahead, a house waited. A bed. A life. Anna tried to imagine it, mornings in a kitchen, seasons passing, children maybe, growing old beside this quiet man. It seemed impossible. It seemed like the only possibility left. "Jack? Yeah? I'll try. To be a good wife." He looked at her for a long time. "Anna, I just need you to try to be happy. That's all." She didn't know how to answer that. Happiness felt like a language she'd forgotten, but she nodded. And he nodded back. And they sat together in the dark as the train carried them deeper into America, deeper into the unknown, towards something that might, if they were patient, if they were kind, eventually feel like home. By dawn, they reached Chicago. The city rose gray and industrial, stockyards stinking in the cold. They changed trains, bought coffee that tasted like burnt dirt, and boarded another car heading west. The landscape opened plains and sky, endless and unforgiving. Anna pressed her hand to the window. Somewhere out there, her new life was waiting. Jack sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Almost. Not much farther now," he said. Anna closed her eyes and believed him. The farmhouse stood alone against an ocean of winter wheat stubble, its white paint peeling, roof sagging slightly over the porch. Jack pulled the truck into the dirt drive and cut the engine. Silence rushed in, so complete Anna's ears rang. "It's not much," he said, not looking at her. Anna climbed out, boots crunching on frozen ground. The wind cut through her coat, carrying the smell of earth and distance. No neighbors, no trees, just flat land and sky pressing down like a weight. Inside, the house was clean but bare. A wood stove in the kitchen, a table with 2 chairs, faded curtains. Jack carried her suitcase to a small bedroom, narrow bed, dresser, window facing east. "This is yours," he said. "I'm across the hall." She turned to him. "We're married." "I know." His jaw tightened. "But I'm not going to." He stopped, frustrated. "You've been through enough. I can wait." Anna didn't know if she felt relief or rejection. She nodded, and he left her alone with her suitcase and her thoughts. That first night, she lay awake listening to the house settle, the wind howl, the vast American silence that felt nothing like home. She wondered if Greta was warm in Minnesota, If Helene was safe in Baltimore, if Marta had already run, morning came with cold light. Jack was already up, dressed for work, frying eggs at the stove. "There's coffee," he said. "I'll be in the fields till noon." He left before she could answer. Anna washed the dishes, swept the floor, found sheets in a cupboard and made both beds. By mid-morning, she'd cleaned every surface and had nothing left to do but stare out the window at the empty road. At noon, Jack returned, hands rough with cold, and ate the sandwich she'd made without comment. Then he went back out. This became the pattern. He worked, she waited. They spoke in careful sentences about weather and meals. He slept behind his closed door, and she slept behind hers, and the distance between them grew. In town, the stares were worse than silence. Anna walked to the general store to buy flour, and conversation stopped when she entered. The clerk took her money without speaking. A woman whispered to her daughter, "That's the German one." Anna kept her head high, paid, and left. On the walk home, someone threw a rock. It missed, but the message landed. That night, she wrote letters. "Dear Greta, I hope Minnesota is kinder than Kansas. Here, I am a ghost. Jack is kind but distant. I think he is afraid of me, or afraid of himself. I do not know which is worse. Write soon. Tell me it gets better. Anna." Dear Helene, do you feel it too? This strange guilt for surviving, for accepting kindness from men whose uniform we once feared. I cannot sleep without dreaming of home. But home is ashes now. Where does that leave us? Anna, she didn't mention the rock, or the silence, or the way Jack flinched in his sleep, crying out in a language she couldn't understand. One evening, she found him in the barn, sitting on a hay bale, hands shaking. She hesitated in the doorway. "Jack?" He looked up, face drawn. "Sorry. I'm all right. You're not." He laughed bitterly. "No, I'm not." Anna stepped inside, closing the door against the wind. She sat beside him, not touching, just present. "Where were you?" she asked quietly. "In the war." His hands clenched. "France. Belgium. Germany. Art." Her breath caught. "Where in Germany?" "West. We pushed through the Rhineland." He paused. "I was there when we took Freiburg." The world tilted. Anna's hometown. Her family's graves. The rubble she'd walked through before leaving. "You were there," she whispered. "Yeah." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry." She wanted to scream. To hit him. To demand what gave him the right to marry her, after destroying everything she'd known. But when she looked at his face, the guilt, the shame, the exhaustion, she saw only another survivor carrying a weight too heavy for one person. "Did you kill anyone?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Jack's eyes closed. "Yes." The barn smelled like hay and old wood, and the truth neither of them wanted to speak. Anna's hands trembled in her lap. "My brother died in Russia," she said. "He was 18. I'm sorry. My parents died when the Allies bombed. They were hiding in a cellar." Jack's breath hitched. "Anna, I'm not telling you to hurt you." She turned to face him. "I'm telling you so you know. We both lost. We both did things, or didn't do things that we can't take back." He looked at her, eyes red-rimmed. "How do we live with it?" "I don't know." She swallowed hard. "But we're here. Now. And that has to mean something." Jack reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers closed gently around hers rough palm, work-worn skin, a grip that held without crushing. They sat like that until the cold drove them inside. That night, for the first time, they ate dinner facing each other, and the silence felt a little less like punishment. Anna still dreamed of bombs. Jack still woke screaming. The town still whispered. But in that kitchen, under a single electric bulb, two damaged people shared a meal and didn't flinch. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a beginning. Spring arrived reluctantly. The wheat fields turned green, and the wind carried warmth instead of knives. Anna planted a small garden behind the house, tomatoes, beans, herbs she remembered from her mother's kitchen. Jack watched from the porch, coffee cup in hand, and didn't comment. She learned his rhythms. He woke at dawn, worked until his body demanded rest, spoke little, but noticed everything. He fixed things compulsively: the leaking roof, the squeaky door hinge, the fence post listing in the north field, as if repairing the world could somehow repair himself. One evening, Anna decided to cook sauerbraten, her grandmother's recipe, the one she'd memorized by age 12. She'd been saving ration coupons for the right cut of beef, hoarding vinegar and spices. The kitchen filled with the smell of cloves and bay leaves, memories sharp enough to cut. Jack came in from the barn and stopped in the doorway, nose wrinkling. "What is that?" Anna's heart sank. "German food." "I thought, if you don't like it, I can make something else." He approached the stove cautiously, peering into the pot. "Smells strong. It has to marinate for days. The vinegar tenderizes the meat." Jack took the spoon she offered, blew on it, tasted. His eyes widened. Then he coughed, grabbed his water glass, and drank half of it in one go. Anna's face burned. "I'm sorry. He held up a hand, still coughing, but when he looked at her, he was smiling. "It's different. Real different." He took another cautious bite. "But good. Just surprised me." Relief flooded through her. "My Oma used to make it every Sunday." "Your grandmother?" "Yes. She died before the war." Jack nodded slowly. "My mom made pot roast. Carrots, potatoes, onions. Nothing fancy." But he stopped, clearing his throat. "I miss it sometimes." Anna ladled the sauerbraten onto plates, added spätzle she'd rolled by hand. They sat at the table, and for the first time, Jack asked questions about her family, her town, her life before. She told him carefully, leaving out the worst parts: the hunger, the fear, the shame of defeat. He listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he said, "Thank you for sharing that." It wasn't much, but it was a door opening. Over the following weeks, small moments accumulated. Jack taught her to drive the truck. She stalled it 6 times before managing a full circuit of the property, and they both laughed until their sides hurt. She mended his shirts with neat, tiny stitches, and he noticed, running his thumb over the repair with something like wonder. Greta's letters arrived full of joy. She was pregnant, due in October, and Paul's family had thrown her a party with a cake shaped like a dairy cow. Helene wrote more sparingly, but her words carried quiet strength. "Robert and I are learning each other's silences. It's enough." Lottie's letters grew darker. Thomas was cold, controlling, criticized everything she cooked or wore. She felt trapped but had nowhere to go. Anna wrote back immediately, "You are not alone. If you need help, we will find a way." One Saturday, Jack drove Anna into town. She needed fabric for new curtains, and he needed seed for the late planting. At the general store, Mrs. Patterson, the owner's wife, looked up from the register and frowned. "We don't serve." "Yes, you do," Jack interrupted, voice flat. "She's my wife. Same as any other customer." Mrs. Patterson's mouth thinned. "Some folks don't appreciate. Some folks can keep their opinions to themselves." Jack placed his hand on the small of Anna's back, a gentle, proprietary gesture. "We'll take what we need and pay fair. That's how it works." The store went silent. Anna felt every eye on her, judgment thick as dust. But Jack didn't move, didn't flinch, and after a long moment, Mrs. Patterson rang up the fabric with sharp, angry movements. Outside, Anna's hands shook. "You didn't have to." "Yes, I did." Jack opened the truck door for her. "You're not fighting this alone." That night, Anna found a box in the hall closet while searching for a spare blanket. Inside, photographs, letters, a Purple Heart medal. She recognized the landscape in the pictures: Europe, ruins, soldiers posing with forced smiles. She almost closed the box, almost respected his privacy. But one photo caught her eye. Jack, standing in front of a building she recognized. A church in Freiburg. Her church. Her hands trembled. He'd been there. Right there. Maybe while she was huddled in the cellar with her mother. Maybe while the bombs fell. The bedroom door opened. Jack stood in the hallway, saw the box, saw her face. "I should have told you," he said quietly. "Why didn't you?" "Because I was ashamed." He sat on the floor beside her, not reaching for the photos. "We were ordered to secure the town." I followed orders, but his voice broke. I saw what we'd done, the bodies, the families, and I kept going. Because that's what soldiers do. Anna stared at the photograph. I was in that cellar, the one under the choir loft. Jack's head snapped up. "Anna, I heard your tanks, your voices. I thought I'd die. God." He buried his face in his hands. "I'm so sorry." Anna picked up the Purple Heart, turned it over in her palm. "Why did they give you this?" "Shrapnel. Outside Aachen. Nothing. Compared to, it's not a competition." She placed the medal back in the box. We both bled. Different sides, same war. Jack looked at her, eyes searching. "How can you stand to be near me?" Anna didn't have a good answer. The truth was complicated, rage and grief tangled with loneliness and gratitude. She'd married a man who'd occupied her homeland, who'd followed the orders that killed her family. But he was also the man who'd crossed an ocean to give her a future, who defended her in town, who woke screaming from the same nightmares. "Because you're here," she said finally. "You didn't have to be. You could have stayed alone. But you reached out. That counts for something." Jack's hand found hers in the dim hallway, rough, warm, shaking slightly. "I don't deserve, neither do I." She squeezed back. "But maybe that's the point. We build something new. Not because we deserve it, but because we survived it." He pulled her close then, tentative, and she let him. They sat on the floor surrounded by ghosts and photographs, and the small, fragile seed of something that might, eventually, be called forgiveness. The town hall meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday evening in late May. Jack hadn't mentioned it, but Anna heard about it from Mrs. Kowalski, the elderly Polish woman who ran the post office and seemed to disapprove of everyone equally, which Anna found oddly comforting. "They're voting on whether foreign brides can join the church auxiliary," Mrs. Kowalski had said, stamping Anna's letter to Helene with unnecessary force. "Lot of fuss over nothing, if you ask me. But you should know." Anna thanked her and walked home slowly, dread settling in her stomach. That evening, she told Jack. He was cleaning his rifle hunting. Season was coming, and his hands went still on the oiled cloth. "You don't have to go," he said. "Yes, I do. Anna, if I hide, they win. If I let them decide my place without even showing my face, I'm already defeated." She met his eyes. "I have to go." Jack set down the rifle. "Then we go together." The town hall was a squat brick building with harsh fluorescent lights and folding chairs that squeaked. About 40 people had turned out, more than Anna expected. She recognized some faces from church, others from the general store. Most wouldn't meet her eyes. Jack guided her to seats in the middle, not too close, not hiding in back. His hand rested on her knee, steady. The mayor, Douglas Brennan, called the meeting to order. A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses. He looked uncomfortable with the whole proceeding. "We're here to discuss membership in the church auxiliary. Specifically, whether we extend invitations to," he paused, "to wives from formerly hostile nations." A ripple went through the crowd. Sarah Mitchell stood up, a severe woman in her 50s whose son had died at Bastogne. "I'll say it plain. We don't want Germans in our organizations. My boy died fighting them. I won't break bread with the enemy." Murmurs of agreement. Anna's face burned, but she kept her spine straight. Jack rose slowly. "Mrs. Mitchell, I respect your loss. But Anna didn't fight anyone. She survived." "She's German." Sarah's voice cracked. "They started that war. They killed millions. And Americans dropped the bombs," Jack said quietly. "War makes monsters of everyone. But it's over. We have a choice now. Keep fighting it, or try to heal. Easy for you to say. A man Anna didn't know stood up, graying hair, weathered face, American Legion pin on his jacket. You weren't in the Pacific. You didn't see what they did. I was in Europe, Jack said. I saw plenty. And you know what I learned? Hate doesn't end just because the shooting stops. We carry it, or we let it go. Your choice. The man's face reddened. So we're supposed to just forgive? Forget? I'm not asking you to forget. Jack's voice was steel now. I'm asking you to see a human being. Sergeant Earl Preston stood up, then a big man, Jack's former commanding officer, with a Purple Heart and a mean streak. Carter, you always were soft. But bringing a German wife to Kansas? That's a betrayal. A betrayal of what? Of every man who died over there. Jack's jaw clenched. Don't you dare speak for the dead. You don't get to use their sacrifice to justify your hate. Earl stepped into the aisle. You want to defend her? Fine. Let's see how much you care. The room went silent. Anna grabbed Jack's arm. Don't. But Jack was already moving, meeting Earl halfway. The first punch came fast, Earl's fist connecting with Jack's jaw, snapping his head back. Jack stumbled, caught himself, then surged forward, tackling Earl into the chairs. They crashed to the ground in a tangle of fists and fury. Women screamed. Men shouted. The mayor yelled for order. Anna stood frozen, watching Jack take a hit to the ribs, then deliver one to Earl's face that split his lip. Sheriff Tom Bradley and his deputy finally pulled them apart. Earl was bleeding from his nose. Jack's eye was already swelling shut. Both men were breathing hard, staring at each other with raw, animal rage. Enough. The sheriff's voice cracked like a whip. Earl, you're drunk. Jack, you should know better. Both of you. Out. Now. Earl spat blood onto the floor. This isn't over, Carter. Yeah, Jack said quietly. It is. The sheriff hauled Jack toward the door. Anna followed, dimly aware of the crowd parting, of Sarah Mitchell's satisfied expression, of the mayor's helpless frustration. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. The sheriff pushed Jack against the patrol car. I'm taking you in to cool off. One night. Consider yourself lucky I'm not pressing charges. Sheriff Anna started. Ma'am, you should go home. He'll be released in the morning. No. Anna stepped forward. If you arrest him, arrest me too. The sheriff blinked. What? He fought because of me. If he's guilty, so am I. Jack twisted to look at her. Anna, don't. I didn't cross an ocean to let you face this alone. She turned to the sheriff. So either we both go, or neither does. Sheriff Bradley stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed, releasing Jack with a shove. Get out of here. Both of you. But Carter, you start one more fight. I'll lock you up myself. Understood? Jack nodded, touching his swelling eye gingerly. Anna took his arm, and they walked to the truck in silence. Behind them, the town hall buzzed with scandal and satisfaction. At home, Anna made him sit while she fetched ice wrapped in a dish towel. She pressed it to his eye, and he winced but didn't pull away. You shouldn't have done that, she said softly. Probably not. They'll use it against you. Say you're unstable. Let them. Jack's good eye found hers. I'm tired of pretending I don't care. You're my wife. That matters. Anna's throat tightened. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his, careful of his injuries. Thank you. His hand came up, cupping the back of her head, holding her there. I'm sorry it's so hard. It was always going to be hard. They stayed like that, breathing together, until the ice melted and the night deepened. And when Anna finally went to bed, she left her door open. Across the hall, Jack did the same. In the morning, the sheriff released Jack with a warning. The town buzzed with gossip. The church auxiliary voted to exclude foreign brides by a margin of 3 votes. But at the post office, Mrs. Kowalski slipped Anna an extra stamp. Your husband's a good man, she said gruffly. Don't let the fools convince you otherwise. Anna carried that small kindness home like a treasure. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep going. Dear Anna, the baby kicks like he's training for boxing. Paul swears it's a boy, says only a boy would be this stubborn. I'm not so sure. Girls can be stubborn too. Minnesota is beautiful in summer. Fields so green they hurt your eyes. Paul's family threw us a party for the baby, 73 people. They brought gifts, food, even a cradle Paul's grandfather built. His mother hugged me and called me daughter. I cried like an idiot. It's not all easy. Paul's uncle still won't speak to me. Calls me that German woman when he thinks I can't hear. But most days are good. Most days, I feel like I belong. How are you? Your last letter sounded heavy. Is Jack treating you well? Are you safe? Write back soon. I worry. All my love. Greta. Dear Anna, Robert's nightmares are worse. Some nights he wakes screaming, and I hold him until dawn. I don't tell him I understand because I have my own ghosts. But we share the silence now. And that helps. I started working at a tailor shop downtown. The owner, Mr. Goldstein, lost family in Poland. He knows what I am, where I'm from. And he hired me anyway. The dead don't need revenge, he said. They need us to live well. I'm trying to believe him. Baltimore is loud and crowded and nothing like Hamburg. But I'm building a life here, small and quiet. But mine. Robert proposed properly this time. With a ring, even though we're already married. He said I deserved a choice. I said yes. We're survivors, Anna. That means something. Yours, Helene. Dear Anna, I'm leaving Clarence. Don't try to talk me out of it. He drinks. Not every night, but enough. And when he drinks, he gets mean. Says things about Germans. About me. About what I owe him. Last week, he shoved me. Not hard enough to leave a mark, but hard enough. I have a little money saved. I'm taking the bus to New York. There's a boarding house in Queens that takes women. I'll find work cleaning, sewing, whatever. I'd rather be alone than owned. Tell Greta and Helene I'm all right. I'll write when I'm settled. Stay strong. Marta, dear Greta, Helene, and Marta, wherever you are. Jack fought a man at the town meeting. Defended me. Got arrested. Just for one night. His eye was swollen shut, and he still smiled when I brought him ice. I'm falling in love with him. I didn't mean to. Didn't think I could. But somewhere between the silence and the arguments and the small kindnesses, it happened. The town still hates me. The church voted to exclude foreign brides from their organizations. But Jack's hand in mine feels stronger than their hate. I planted tomatoes. They're growing. It's a small thing, but it feels important putting roots down. Watching something grow. Greta, I'm so happy for you. For the baby. For Paul's family. For all of it. You deserve every bit of that joy. Helene? Mr. Goldstein sounds like a wise man. Hold on to that. And hold on to Robert. The nightmares will fade. Not completely, but enough. Marta, if you're reading this run, don't look back. We'll be here when you're ready. The war took so much, but it also brought us here, to each other. Maybe that's the only victory we get. With love, Anna. The letters traveled across America, connecting 5 women who'd crossed an ocean together. They shared recipes and advice, warnings and celebrations. When Lottie wrote that Thomas had finally softened, taking her to a church social and introducing her as his wife, not the German one. The others cheered. When Marta sent a postcard from Queens, just 2 words, I'm free, they breathed easier. By summer's end, a network had formed. The German brides, though they laughed at the term, supported each other through pregnancy scares and prejudice, homesickness and small triumphs. They sent packages, Greta's preserves, Helene's hand-sewn booties, Anna's pressed wildflowers from the Kansas plains. They reminded each other that survival was an act of defiance, that building a life in a hostile land took courage, that loving men who'd fought against their homeland was complicated and painful and real. They were scattered across a country that didn't quite want them. But they had each other. And sometimes, that was enough to keep going. Anna kept every letter in a wooden box under her bed. On hard days, she reread them, tracing the words with her finger, remembering she wasn't alone. The tomatoes ripened in late August. Anna picked the first one warm and red and perfect, and sliced it for dinner. Jack took a bite, juice running down his chin, and grinned. Best thing I've ever tasted. Anna smiled. That's because I grew it. That's because you're here. They ate in comfortable silence, the window open to the evening breeze, the letters hidden safely beneath the floorboards of their slowly healing lives. October came cold. The wheat harvest was disappointing. Too much rain in spring, not enough in summer, prices dropping as supply flooded the market. Jack spent long hours calculating numbers that didn't add up, his jaw tight with worry. Anna noticed the tension in his shoulders, the way he skipped meals, the dark circles under his eyes. One evening, she found him at the kitchen table, head in his hands, bills spread before him like an accusation. "We're short," he said without looking up. "Can't make the bank payment." "How short?" $300. It might as well have been 3,000. Anna's heart sank, but she kept her voice steady. "What can we sell?" "Already sold the spare tractor. The livestock barely covers feed. I could." He stopped, jaw working. "I could take a job at the mill. Night shift. You're already working 16-hour days. Don't have a choice." Anna pulled out a chair and Saturday. "There has to be another way." Jack laughed bitterly. "Like what? Print money?" She thought of Greta's letters, Helene's tailoring work. "I could get a job, in town." "Anna, don't say no just because you're proud." She leaned forward. "I can work. I've survived worse than long hours." Jack met her eyes, and she saw the war in him, the shame of failing, of being unable to provide, of asking his wife to carry weight that should be his. "They won't hire you. You know they won't." "Then I'll work somewhere they will." The next morning, Anna walked 4 miles to town, past the general store and the church, to the Blue Moon Diner on the highway. It was a shabby place with cracked vinyl booths and a grease-stained menu. But it was always busy truckers and travelers, people who didn't know or care where the waitress came from. The owner, Betty Simmons, was a hard-faced woman in her 60s with bleached hair and a cigarette perpetually dangling from her lips. She looked Anna up and down. "You Jack Carter's wife?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can you work?" "Yes. Start tomorrow. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. $1 an hour. Keep your tips. Show up late, and you're fired." Anna blinked. "That's it?" Betty exhaled smoke. "Honey, I don't care if you're from the moon. You work hard, you're hired. You slack off, you're gone. Simple." Anna worked. Poured coffee, memorized orders, learned to dodge wandering hands from drunks. Her feet ached. Her back screamed. But every Friday, she brought home her wages and tips, $30, sometimes $40, and placed them on the kitchen table. Jack stared at the money like it was a judgment. "You shouldn't have to." "We're a team," Anna interrupted. "This is what teams do." The bank payment got made. Barely, but made. Then rumors started. Sarah Mitchell saw Anna at the diner, serving a man Anna barely remembered. By Sunday, the story had mutated. The German bride was working at a truck stop, entertaining travelers. Jack Carter couldn't control his own wife. Jack heard it at the feed store and came home white-lipped with rage. "You're quitting." "I'm not." "Anna, they're saying." "I know what they're saying." She faced him across the kitchen. "And I don't care. We need the money. I'm staying. I won't have people talking about you like I'm what? A prostitute? Is that worse than being German?" Her voice rose. "They hated me before I worked. They'll hate me after. At least this way. We eat." Jack's fist hit the table, making her jump. "Damn it. I should be able to what? Control everything? Fix everything?" Anna's anger matched his. "You're not God, Jack. You're just a man trying to survive. Like me." The silence that followed was brittle. Jack's breathing came hard, his hands trembling, and then he turned, grabbed his coat, and walked out. The door slammed. Anna stood alone in the kitchen, shaking. She heard the truck engine roar to life, tires spitting gravel. Then silence. He didn't come back for dinner. Or at bedtime. Anna lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd pushed too hard. If this was where the fragile bridge between them finally collapsed. Jack returned just before midnight, moving quietly through the house. Anna heard him pause outside her door. Then his footsteps retreated to his own room. In the morning, his truck was in the drive, but he was already gone out working before dawn. A note on the table. Went to fix the north fence. Coffee's made. Anna read it 3 times, searching for hidden meaning. Then she got ready for her shift at the diner. November brought the first hard frost. Jack's nightmares intensified. He woke thrashing, shouting orders in German, learned during occupation, waking Anna across the hall. One night, she heard him sobbing. She stood at his door, hand on the knob, torn between respecting his privacy and offering comfort. She knocked softly. "Jack?" A long pause. "I'm okay." "No, you're not." The door opened. Jack stood there, shirtless, eyes red, looking wrecked. "I can't." His voice broke. "Some nights, I'm back there, and I can't." Anna reached for him. He flinched, then let her pull him into her arms. He was taller, broader, but he collapsed against her like a broken thing, shoulders heaving with silent sobs. "I've killed people," he whispered into her hair. "I don't sleep because I see their faces." "I know." Anna held him tighter. "I have ghosts too." They stood like that, 2 damaged souls holding each other upright until the trembling stopped. Then Anna led him back to bed, sat on the edge, and hummed a German lullaby her mother used to sing low and simple and achingly sad. Jack's hand found hers in the darkness. "Stay?" She nodded and lay down beside him, both fully clothed, separated by inches but together in the way that mattered. When morning came, they woke tangled together, and neither mentioned it. In December, Jack sold his father's war medals, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, marksman badges to a collector in Topeka. He got $200 and didn't tell Anna until she found the empty case. "Jack, no, we needed it." His voice was flat. "They're just metal. They were your father's, and they kept the bank from taking the farm." He turned away. "I'd sell my soul if it meant keeping you safe." Anna's eyes filled. She crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her face between his shoulder blades. "You don't have to carry everything alone." His hands covered hers. "I'm trying to learn that." The hardest winter of their lives passed slowly. They fought. They reconciled. They worked until exhaustion was a constant companion. And somewhere in the struggle, the distance between them vanished. One January night, blizzard raging outside, the power went out. They huddled by the wood stove, wrapped in every blanket they owned. Anna's head rested on Jack's shoulder. His arm circled her waist. "Anna? I love you." She lifted her head, searching his face in the firelight. "You don't have to say that." "I know. I mean it anyway." Anna's throat tightened. "I love you too." He kissed her then, soft and tentative, asking permission. She answered by pulling him closer, and the winter cold receded, replaced by warmth that had nothing to do with the fire. They made love slowly, carefully, 2 people who'd forgotten how to be gentle learning together. Afterward, Anna cried not from sadness, but from relief, from the realization that survival wasn't just enduring, it was also allowing yourself to live. Jack held her, whispering promises into her hair. And outside, the blizzard raged, but inside, something fragile and precious had finally taken root. Spring 1948 arrived with sudden violence, wildflowers exploding across the plains, wheat greening overnight, the sun warm enough to believe in futures. Anna's tomato plants, carefully tended through winter in the kitchen window, went back into the ground. This time, she planted twice as many. The town council announced the annual spring festival, a tradition suspended during the war years, now revived. Food, music, games for children, a pie baking contest. Anna read the notice pinned at the post office and felt a familiar twist of exclusion. Jack found her staring at it. We could go. They don't want me there. Probably not. But you want to go? Anna thought of Greta's letters describing Minnesota church socials, Helene's descriptions of Baltimore street fairs. She wanted normalcy, community, a place where she wasn't always the outsider. Yes, she admitted quietly. Then we'll go. The festival was held on the fairgrounds, a sprawling field dotted with tents and booths. Anna and Jack arrived mid-morning, Anna carrying a basket with a Linzer torch she'd made from precious hoarded sugar and jam. The stairs started immediately. Conversations paused. Sarah Mitchell's mouth pressed into a thin line. But Betty from the diner waved cheerfully, and Mrs. Kowalski from the post office nodded acknowledgement. Jack's hand found the small of Anna's back, steady and possessive. Where do you want to start? Anna spotted the baking tent. There, the table was crowded with pies, apple, cherry, pecan, lemon meringue. Anna placed her tort among them, its lattice top golden and dusted with powdered sugar. The woman supervising the table, Martha Henderson, the pastor's wife, looked at it suspiciously. What is this? Linzer Torte. It's Austrian, but we made it in Germany too. Anna's German accent, never fully suppressed, thickened under stress. Almonds and raspberry preserves. Martha's nose wrinkled. We usually keep to traditional American desserts. It's delicious, Jack said flatly. And the sign says, all baked goods welcome. Martha's lips pursed. But she couldn't argue with her own rules. She assigned Anna entry number 17 and moved on. They wandered the festival. Jack won Anna a stuffed bear at the ring toss. They listened to a local band play swing music, couples dancing in the grass, children running wild. Anna watched, longing sharp in her chest. Dance with me, Jack said suddenly. Here? In front of everyone? Why not? He pulled her onto the makeshift dance floor before she could protest. The music was fast, something upbeat and American, but Jack held her close, ignoring the tempo, moving in a slow circle. People stared. Some frowned. But no one stopped them. Anna pressed her face against his shoulder. They're watching. Let them. When the song ended, Jack dipped her dramatically. And despite everything, Anna laughed. A real, genuine laugh that startled even her. Scattered applause came from the crowd, some genuine, some mocking, but applause nonetheless. They ate lunch at a picnic table, fried chicken, potato salad, sweet tea. Betty joined them, smoking between bites. You two are the talk of the town. Again, we're always the talk of the town, Jack said dryly. True. Betty stubbed out her cigarette. But this time, it's split. Half think you're brave, half think you're fools. Progress. The baking contest results were announced mid-afternoon. Third place, Martha Henderson's apple pie. Second place, Doris Turner's cherry crumble. First place, the mayor hesitated, looking uncomfortable. Entry number 17, Linzer Tort by Anna Carter. The silence was deafening. Then someone started clapping slow, deliberate. Mrs. Kowalski. Betty joined in. Then a few others. Not a standing ovation, but enough. Anna walked to the judge's table in a daze. The mayor handed her a blue ribbon and a $5 prize. Congratulations, Mrs. Carter. It was very good. Thank you. Anna's voice came out steadier than she felt. On the walk back to Jack, Sarah Mitchell stepped into her path. You think winning a contest changes anything? Anna met her eyes. No. But I think it proves I'm not going anywhere. Sarah's jaw tightened. My son died because of people like you, and my parents died because of people like you. Anna's voice didn't rise. But I'm still here, standing in front of you. Human. The same as you. For a moment, something flickered in Sarah's expression, not forgiveness, but maybe the exhausted recognition that hate was heavy to carry. Then she turned and walked away. Jack appeared at Anna's elbow. You okay? I will be. The festival continued. Children played. Musicians played. Life, stubborn and resilient, asserted itself. As the sun lowered, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Anna and Jack sat on a blanket watching the crowd. Next year, Jack said quietly. It'll be easier. Anna leaned against him. You promise? No, but I hope. Hope. Such a fragile, dangerous thing. But Anna held on to it anyway, along with her blue ribbon and her husband's hand, and the slowly growing belief that she might, eventually, belong. That evening, a telegram arrived from Greta. Baby boy born. 8 pounds. Named him Samuel. Wish you were here. Love. G. Anna cried, reading it, joy mixed with longing. Jack wrapped her in his arms and promised they'd visit Minnesota in the summer. They'd meet little Samuel. They'd celebrate. Life, Anna realized, was built from these moments, small victories, tentative connections, blue ribbons that meant more than first place. It was messy and hard and nothing like she'd imagined, but it was hers. Theirs. And that, finally, felt like enough. 20 years later, summer 1966. The farmhouse had been painted, the roof repaired, a new porch added. The field stretched green and golden under an endless Kansas sky. And in the side yard, 3 children played: Sarah, 16, Thomas, 12, and little Margaret, beat their laughter carrying on the warm breeze. Anna Carter stood at the kitchen window, hands resting on her swollen belly, a surprise at 44. Doctor said everything looked fine and watched her family with quiet contentment. Gray threaded through her blonde hair now, and lines bracketed her mouth, but her eyes were clear. In the living room, Jack read the newspaper, bifocals perched on his nose. He'd aged 2 shoulders, still broad but starting to stoop, hair more silver than brown. War and farming had taken their toll, but he still smiled when Anna entered a room. The doorbell rang. Margaret shrieked with excitement and ran to answer it. Through the window, Anna saw a taxi in the drive and a familiar figure emerging. Stouter now, gray-haired, but unmistakable. Greta! Anna hurried to the door, as fast as pregnancy allowed. They embraced on the porch, both crying and laughing. Greta had brought Samuel, now 19, tall and serious, studying engineering, and her husband Paul, who'd gone completely bald but still had the kindest eyes Anna had ever seen. We drove from Minnesota, Greta explained, dabbing her eyes. I told Paul. 20 years. We have to see Anna. Inside, the house filled with noise and joy. Margaret bombarded Samuel with questions. Thomas showed Paul his baseball card collection. Sarah helped Anna prepare coffee and cake, moving with the easy confidence of a girl who'd never known war. That evening, 2 more cars arrived. Helene, elegant in a tailored suit she'd sewn herself, stepped out with Robert, gray-haired, leaning heavier on his cane, but smiling. They'd brought photographs. Their son, Michael, a doctor. Their daughter, Ruth, a teacher. Lottie came next. Timid still, but happier. Thomas had passed 2 years ago, heart attack, but she'd stayed in Pennsylvania, running the hardware store with competence that surprised everyone. She'd never remarried. Once was enough, she said with a wry smile. Only Marta was missing. They'd lost touch years ago, last anyone heard. She was in California, managing an apartment complex, never married, fiercely independent. She found her freedom, Helene said softly. That's what mattered to her. The women sat on the porch as evening fell, watching their families mingle, children comparing notes on American schools, husbands discussing crops and baseball and politics. Inside, languages mixed, English peppered with German phrases, laughter the same in any tongue. Do you remember the ship? Greta asked. How scared we were. Terrified, Anna admitted. I thought I'd made the worst mistake of my life. And now? Anna looked at Jack through the screen door, teaching Margaret to play chess, patient and gentle. Now I can't imagine anything different. Helene pulled an envelope from her purse, old, yellowed, creased from much handling. I found these in my trunk. Letters we wrote that first year. She spread them on the porch table. Anna recognized her own handwriting, young and uncertain. The town still hates me. Jack is kind but distant. I do not know which is worse. Listen to us. Lottie laughed. So dramatic. We had reason to be. Helene countered. It was hard. It was impossible, Anna corrected. We did it anyway. They sat in comfortable silence. These four women who'd crossed an ocean together, who'd survived war and prejudice and heartbreak, who'd built lives from rubble and determination. Sarah wandered out, curious. Mama, what are you reading? Anna handed her daughter one of the letters. Stories from a long time ago. Sarah read, brow furrowed. This is so sad. Were people really that mean to you? Some were. Others weren't. Most were just confused. Anna touched her daughter's cheek. But that was then. Now is different. Better? Different, Anna repeated. Better in some ways, still complicated in others. Jack joined them, bringing lemonade. He settled into the chair beside Anna, his hand automatically finding hers, a gesture so familiar, so natural, that it had become invisible. Telling war stories? He asked. Marriage stories, Greta corrected. They're the same thing, really. Paul called from inside something about dinner. The women rose, joints creaking, laughing about growing old. Inside, the kitchen erupted in chaos as too many people tried to help. Samuel dropped a casserole dish. Margaret stole cookies. Thomas and Ruth debated baseball statistics. During dinner, squeezed around tables pushed together, Anna looked at the faces surrounding her children she'd raised, friends she'd kept, a husband who'd become her home, and felt the weight of 2 decades settle warm and solid. After the meal, Jack produced his fiddle, a recent hobby, played badly but enthusiastically. Robert joined in on harmonica. The children danced, and the adults clapped. And for a moment, the past receded. That night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Greta and Paul in the guest room, Helene and Robert at the hotel in town, Lottie on the couch. Anna and Jack sat on the porch in the darkness. 20 years, Jack said quietly. 20 years since I stepped off that ship, terrified. 20 years since I saw you and thought, I don't deserve this second chance. Anna leaned against him. Did we get it right? I don't know. We got something. He kissed her temple. We got us. Inside, their children slept safe. Outside, the wheat fields whispered. Somewhere across America, other war brides were living. Other lives, some triumphant, some tragic, all complicated. But here, on this porch, in this moment, Anna felt the truth of what they'd accomplished. They'd survived. More than that, they'd built something worth surviving for. I'm glad I came, she whispered. Jack's arm tightened around her. So am I. The baby kicked. Anna placed Jack's hand on her belly, and they felt their future move beneath their palms, proof that love could outlive war, that hope could take root in hostile soil, that sometimes, against all odds, the impossible became simply life. Above them, stars wheeled across the Kansas sky. Behind them, 20 years of struggle and joy. Ahead, more years uncertain, challenging. But theirs, Anna closed her eyes and remembered that young woman on the ship, clutching a photograph, rehearsing smiles, bracing for rejection. She wished she could tell that frightened girl, it will be hard, harder than you imagine. But you will survive. You will build. You will love. And that will be enough. The night deepened. Jack's breathing evened. Anna stayed awake a little longer, memorizing this moment, the weight of his arm, the sound of crickets, the soft murmur of sleeping children. They'd come as strangers, they'd stayed as proof, and in the morning, when the sun rose over the fields they'd tended together for 2 decades, they would wake and begin again because that's what survivors did. They lived,